Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the farm. It's been crunch time lately. We've been getting a lot of stuff done. We got a lot more to do. Stick around. So yesterday we got an unexpected freeze. Kelly said it got down to 29 degrees at one point, but when I got up I saw it was 31. I'm going to go out and check the garden real quick, see if we've got a bunch of stuff frosted out. Our peppers look like they survived just fine. We've got a lot of peppers off already. And then watermelons. I think we got a rotten one right there. The rest of these look fine. The plants look fine. Got another volunteer deal coming up. We've been using that. The honeydews look fine. The tomatoes were looking sick already, but I want to check the actual fruits themselves. Still nice and firm. We're going to come out and we're going to pick one more batch out of here. We're going to pick everything that we've got going ready. And then these plants can come out because they got blight so bad this year, but doesn't seem to hurt the tomato harvest. We've got a ton of them out here yet. But we've got another project we need to do this morning. We've got to build a cider press. And I believe I've got all the parts for that. And we picked all the apples the other day. So they're sweetening up, ripening a little bit. They can sit for a while, it doesn't hurt them. But most likely we'll get this press done today. So let's get after it. So with the amount of apples that we get here on the homestead because of the enormous trees that we have, it only makes sense to have a cider press. And I priced a couple cider presses. They are outrageous. So my wheels got to turning because we can build most anything we need here on the farm. If we can't buy it, we started thinking about how we were going to build an apple cider press. So my thoughts immediately went to one of these hydraulic presses that you can get for the shop. And I found one online for, I think it was a little over $100. Problem is, we've had problems with FedEx delivering stuff here to the property. When we get the items, the boxes are broken open and there's parts missing. And that's what happened to this. When it came, it was missing all of the hardware, all the bolts. It was missing the hydraulic jack. The box had been reboxed and relabeled. And there was parts missing out of it. It's not the first time that's happened with us with FedEx. So I contacted the company. They issued a refund, but they didn't want this stuff back. They said, no, we're not going to ship all that back. So now I have a press here with parts missing. So rather than buy a new press with the refund that they sent me, I went and bought the pieces that were missing from this package. Part of them was one of these pins that hold the bottom carrier here. So I bought some cold rolled here to match. I bought a hydraulic jack from Harbor Freight. And then I bought a bunch of bolts at the hardware store. I took bolts out of the bolt bin just to temporarily put this thing together and see what I was missing. But we'll get all the bolts in this thing, get it tightened up, and then we have some other pieces that we need to make. Okay, we got our new bolts put in our frame. We've got the jack installed. That was a chore. And then we've got all the other bolts tightened up. We have our one pin that did come with it. So I'm going to measure that and then cut another pin out of our new stock. We've got our other pins made. We've got our press table put on there. Now this is a pretty bad design. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do to update this later, because this thing's supposed to be able to move up and down. But there's nothing tying this together. So the only thing that's holding this together is bolts. So to keep it from moving around, you'd have to tighten these bolts up pretty tight. And then you can see that there's space between where the bolt is and this. So if this frame moved a little bit, it's going to fall off the pins on either side. So that's not good. And then these pins don't have anything keeping this from falling off. This way, these pins from moving around. So in the long term, I'm not going to do it right now because I don't have the pins, but I'm going to weld a washer on one side of these to hold it in. And then on the other side, I'll drill a hole and put a little snap clip in there to hold those in place and to keep this thing from moving around. I'll probably cut some pipes to go in between here to where I can tighten these bolts, but it won't be tight on the frame, so I can readily move this up and down. And I'll probably weld a little lip on all four corners of this. So if this moves around, it's not going to go past this pin. But it's going to work for what we need right now. We'll set it at whatever height we need it, and then we'll tighten these bolts, and then it won't move at all. So eventually we're going to want a clean 5-gallon bucket down here for the juice to run into. So we're going to move this bottom plate down to where it clears this bucket with enough space to where we can get the bucket in and out. So that is about where we want it there. So we've had a tray made, stainless steel tray. We bought just the stainless steel cookie sheet on Amazon. I had this old sausage making tube that I didn't use because it was so big. So I had them just weld it to the bottom of our tray. That's going to sit on there for our press plate. But underneath that, we're going to build a 2x4 platform to hold this up, because we don't want to put a lot of pressure on just a cookie sheet like that. And then we're also going to make it to where we can slide it out. Once we're filling it, we can slide our little press bucket out, fill it, and then slide it back in. Now I think our tube is a little long. We need to cut our tube off of the tray, and then we'll start building our wooden platform there. Got our wood cut for our tray. So now what I want to do is I want to cut a hole for our tube to go through. So we'll take these two center boards, we'll mark, and we'll cut a half moon corresponding out of each on the bandsaw, and then that can go through our tray. Got our press plate support made so we can slide it back and forth, and our tray fits on it perfectly like that. So now what I want to do is I want to make a little foot for the back, so when you pull it out to fill the basket, it won't tip over and fall off. So for the leg in the back, we're just going to repurpose this old table leg. We just cut it shorter for what we needed for that. We'll screw it right on the bottom end of that, so when we drag it out, the tray will stand up. Okay, our press tray is done. You can see our little foot here. So when we pull our tray back to fill our bucket, and we can shove it back in, it won't fall down. So next is the hard part. We have to build the press bucket that goes on top of that. So for our press bucket, our squeezer bucket, we have this old pressure cooker that was broken that we purchased. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut rings out of this pressure cooker, so because it's the right width. And we'll cut rings to hold the hardwood slats. We'll need 2 rings. So we'll measure out probably inch and a half. We'll make 2 rings out of this for our press bucket. So we marked up off the bottom with a square so we can cut the bottom off. So we'll cut along here, and then we'll cut the other side of the tape. And that'll give us a ring about that wide. and then we'll lay another piece of tape right on that edge, and we'll make another cut. So we got to cut 3 times. We got our 2 rings cut. Now I can't think of a use for that, so that's probably going to go in recycle because it's aluminum, so it's worth some money. Now this thing here, which is the bottom, I thought of a use for this. We could clean this up, use this as a heat diffuser on the gas stove. If you have a pot that's got a real thin bottom, you put this over the burner and it diffuses the heat over a bigger area. It's like just like you would have a heavy bottom pot. So we may hold on to that piece. And if you're sanding, grinding, cutting anything aluminum, make sure you wear a mask, folks. You do not want aluminum dust in your lungs because it doesn't go away. Got our press bucket rings made. Now we need to figure out how tall we want our bucket. We want to at minimum 8 inches below this portion here because we have an 8-inch stroke. We need room to get our follower that we've yet to make and a spacer to press down on the like a plunger for the follower. So we need minimum 8 inches. So we'll take that measurement and find out what it is. So we've got some hardwood 1x8. This is oak. And the reason we want hardwood is because it doesn't break as easy. The grain is a lot thinner. So we figured out we want our bucket 16 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of 16-inch pieces, and then we'll put the rip fence on and we'll cut some strips out. I don't know, maybe 1 inch, maybe 1.25 inches. And then we'll have our staves for our press bucket. So we got to do some big city math to figure out how many staves we need. So we take our diameter of our pot, which is 12 inches. We times that times 3.14, which is pi. We come out to 37.5 inches or so. Now we want our staves to be 1.25 inches, but we want a 1/2 inch gap. So we're going to figure our staves at 1 3/4 to allow for that 1/2 inch gap. So we divide our 37.5 inches by that 1 3/4 and we get 21. And then we'll just cut the staves 1.25 inches instead of 1 3/4, and that should be how many staves that we need all the way around here. So now we're going to pre-drill our holes in our rings. So we measured the outside circumference, and then we divided that by the number of staves, and that gave us our distance apart. So now we'll go set up the drill press and drill these holes. Got all of our holes drilled. So the rings are ready to go. We're going to go to get the staves now. We're going to knock the corners off the staves, the sharp edges. We pre-drilled 3 of the staves and then put those in because 3-legged whatever it is balances itself. So now we'll just take these, line them up, drill them real quick, throw some screws in them, and just go all the way around. Got our press bucket all done. So we only got a couple more things to do. We need to build a follower that goes down inside there. It's a big hunk of wood. And then we need to build the plunger that goes from this piece that the jack moves down to push on that follower. But right now we're going to go warm up some lunch. All right, we had a good lunch. Had leftover stuffed bell peppers from last night. So we need to make our follower that pushes down in that tub there, and then eventually make our plunger. So let's go see what kind of wood we got. We got the plunger made. We determined that it needed to be 10 1/4 wide. So that's what we did. We rounded the corners. We used some oak. We did 2 layers of oak with opposing grain, so it'd be the strongest and each one would back each other up. We made a little pocket for our plunger there. So I think that's going to work well. We got our 2 plungers. We have an 8-inch in case this thing is completely full. We can put the 8-inch in. And then once we get to the end of our stroke, which is 8-inch stroke, we can put our 12-inch plunger in. The plungers fit right up underneath this channel really well. They fit right in here. The 12-inch plunger will get us clear. The follower would be right at the bottom of this bottom ring. And then we don't need to go any further than that, because you figure the material in there is going to be at least that thick or thicker. Now, if we're squeezing just a little bit of stuff, we could always cut like a 16-inch plunger if we needed one, because we have the wood. But this thing is ready to rock. It's been a fun project. I think Kelly and I could probably make some cider tomorrow. Well, I'm glad we got that done. We don't have to worry about our apples going bad, because we can press them anytime. So, hope you enjoyed the project as much as I did. And I hope you guys come back and see us here at Markelly Farm sometime soon. We love having you. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys.